My name's Peter. I'm a software engineer. I'm married with 2 young children, and I've lived here in Hillesley near Wotton-under-Edge for the last 7 years. I want to tell you a little bit about my story and the secret of hope that my Christian faith brings me. Nearly 2 years ago I started to become unwell. I had frequent bouts of nausea and fatigue, and I went to see the doctor, and they were initially unable to diagnose the cause. And this was the start of 6 months of worsening health, frequent hospital visits, scans, and ultimately referral to a doctor in London, who finally diagnosed that I had a malignant tumour associated with my bile duct. Needless to say, this came as a huge shock to me and the family. But worse was to come when we went to see the oncologist, and he told me that the tumour was advanced and inoperable. I probably only had months to live. There was no cure, and all he could offer me was some palliative treatment that would help to alleviate the symptoms and perhaps extend my life for up to 2 years at the very most. This was devastating news. My life up to that point had seemed really blessed with a lovely family and a secure job, and suddenly we felt like the rug had been pulled from beneath our feet. But somehow, through all of this, I knew that God had everything in His hands. It's amazing looking back at the past year at how God has been our source of comfort and strength and hope through some very dark times. We've been very grateful for the support of the church and our friends in Hillesley, and many people have been praying for us, some praying every day. And yes, there is some hope that God will bring healing. I've been a Christian for long enough to have heard many stories about how God has healed people in miraculous ways. And the fact that I'm still feeling fairly well more than a year after my diagnosis is testament, I believe, to those prayers. But I can't yet say that God has healed me, and I have to accept that there's a strong likelihood that I will not survive this disease for very much longer. The Bible tells us that we'll all suffer trials and sorrows on this earth, and this is just part of the natural world that we live in. But I still know that God is in control. I still have an amazing sense of peace about the current situation, and I have a hope in the future. As a Christian, I don't believe that death is something to be feared and is the end of everything. Sometimes I find myself wondering what to expect of life after death. Well, the Bible says that no one can fully comprehend what God has prepared in advance for us, but it does give us some clues. It talks about heaven as a place of beauty and of light. The Bible uses imagery of precious stones and jewels and gold. It's a place of gladness and joy, a place where God, in all His goodness and love, is always present. The Bible talks about those who die with a faith in Jesus as being a bit like falling asleep, and that one day heaven and earth will come together, and those who are asleep in death will be raised to life forever. There'll be no more sorrow, no more pain, no more suffering, no more cancer, no more hunger, no more warfare, and no more death. Ultimately, this is a hope that I share with millions of Christians around the world. It's a hope that helps me each day as I struggle with my condition. And it's a hope that's freely available to all of us through a trusting faith in God and in His Son, Jesus, who was the first to rise from the dead.